Restoring men in history. Our Constitution trumps the bureaucrats. Our Constitution trumps the State Department. Follow the First Amendment, State Department. So anyway, all these orgs were suddenly attacking democracy, and then Mike Benz tells the story, but they couldn't get out of the word. Oh, they had been trying to displace, and the way they were displacing other countries, and you know they'd do it here if they do it there. And they did move it to here, he says. But the way they were displacing and terminating elections and throwing puppets in was they used the word democracy. We've got to do this for democracy, right? We've got to do this for democracy, the State Department says. Ha, ha. So they were unsatisfied with Brexit and Donald Trump. They didn't want that happening everywhere. So they had to retreat from using the word. They were almost trying to retreat from using the word democracy, but then they had to put it back because that's how all their funding and all their apparatus was set up with the word democracy. Pretty good piece there. And of course, republics, democracy, whatever word you want to, freedom, I would call it freedom. Freedom leads to Brexit. People thinking being able to communicate led to Brexit. They put a ton of money against Brexit, by the way. They don't want Nigel Farage and those people winning. They want to control the world from the EU and have a global new world order or something. Or something like that. Anyway, they want more control and power. Let's say that for sure. If you like our message, please like and subscribe. We would appreciate that. They want more control and power. They want to decide elections. They want to determine what you can say and what you can't say. So they didn't like Donald Trump winning, and they didn't like Brexit, and they didn't want it happening. They didn't like Marine Le Pen. He talks about Marine Le Pen. They didn't want her winning. So these complexes are very powerful, and they can manipulate people. But remember this. You saw, even with all their advances, how the truth moved a lot of voters. And he goes in how the EU would come undone, and they don't want that because NATO wants their power. NATO's the commercial arm would come undone, which means the enforcement arm would come undone, then a World Bank and the IMF. So that would be great. Let's put in 3 cheers. Yes, we would love for all those to come undone. American sovereignty, our U.S. Constitution trumps all. Clip 6.
It would be like the ending scene from Fight Club where the credit card companies all crash down just because you're allowed to speak your mind on the internet.
This is so sick.
So again, what we're just showing there in this quick clip is how well organized and driven they are. And we do have the truth. We talked about this, so let's move on. So they go back and forth, right? They come from government to business, right? Which is, you just have to be careful, right? Because some of the people went, CIA went to X and Twitter when it was Twitter, and back, and you've got the Fed and the Treasury and the Department of Treasury and Goldman Sachs, right? So we've talked about this often. We're not going to go into it, but nationalism competes with multi-level corporations. We want to be an American first, right? America first. And there's an important part to that. De Tocqueville talked about walking across America, and I think we've already talked about this, but we must have a nation and culture. De Tocqueville said materialism balances spiritualism. Let's go to clip 8.
A lot of times people don't believe State Department propaganda. They don't believe CIA propaganda. And so no matter how much money you pump into the region, no matter $5 billion Victoria Nuland bragged about being pumped into Ukrainian civil society ahead of the Maidan protests, it still did not penetrate eastern Ukraine, which broke away in the Donbass. It still did not penetrate Crimea, who voted shortly after to join the Russian Federation in a democratic vote. So from their perspective, funding propaganda was not enough. We need to kill the ability to surface alternative ideas, because then they can't even make a counter argument. Even if they don't believe the propaganda, there's simply no other choice in the room. You don't get access to the other ideas. You don't get access to the other data points or news events that might undermine public trust in the State Department's preferred narrative. This is where malinformation came from. Dis, and malinformation. You may have heard that phrase. Misinformation is something that is false, but it was an innocent mistake. Disinformation is it's wrong, but you did it on purpose. Malinformation is it's right, but it still undermines public faith and confidence in something that's more important. This is why, for example, you had the censorship of COVID in the name of malinformation.
You're banning people from telling the truth.
Yes.
So how are you not just full blown on Satan's team at that point? You're not allowing your own citizens to tell the truth. You're forcing lies at the point of a gun.
This is literally what the federal government's partners pressured, and exploiting government pressure and threatening them with crisis PR if they allowed true statements about COVID-19 to be articulated.
So again, we love America. We love American principles. We have to have a nation. We have to have borders, and not be. We want to be Americans, not global citizens. So it's up to us, right, to defend the Constitution. We've talked about this before. Nationalism completes with multi-level corporations in America. And being American, why the attack on nationalism? They attack nationalism because it doesn't work for the multinational corporation, and they don't mind being global citizens or whatever. De Tocqueville walked across America. He said, what makes America great? It's the balance of materialism and what? Spiritualism. So when you start just talking only about no community, no friendship, no rights, and only profits, power, and control, and these multinational corporations working with government. Here's the other thing he's talking about. First of all, the interchange, right? People, the CIA agents going into Twitter, the FBI agents going into Twitter, these people going back and forth from the Fed to the Treasury to the Fed to the, some other company, from Goldman Sachs to the Secretary of Treasury. So we have this overlap. And who's benefiting from that? Who's winning? You're going to have some of it, but is it too much? But anyway, he's talking about how it's a revolving door. All right, let's go to clip 9.
Do you think that the blob you so vividly describe can tolerate Elon Musk allowing the world's population to say what it thinks through the election and beyond? And what implications does this arrest have for him?
Well, it's a complicated issue because Elon is very unique. I wrote about this when he announced the acquisition before it even closed. I wrote an article where I described how Elon is actually quite unique in this relative to other billionaire owners of social media companies who folded to pressure. And I cited a few reasons. One is, again, the strategy on this, apart from prosecutions, is whole of society contortion of the economics. So what you do is, to get Facebook to do what you want, you offer carrots and you threaten sticks. So if you do what we want, you'll get bribed, you'll get rewarded. If you don't do what we want, we'll bankrupt you. And so they fastidiously organize the whole of society so that pressure is applied from the private sector. So advertiser boycotts. USAID has a formal disinformation program focused on getting advertisers to cut off revenue to misinformation sites and purveyors of misinformation.
So we went through this court case. Not great, not fantastic. We weren't happy with it. Blown. Mike Benz explains how advertisers go after people, how they went after Facebook. And of course, we went over a little bit how they went after Elon Musk, so we won't go through that. But Elon Musk was clever. These people got to do what they want, right? They got to have their way. They want control over you, over your speech. Just remember that. Whatever it takes to control the narrative should be the name of that. Whatever it takes to control the narrative. So remember, Elon Musk had to come up with a new way of gaining revenue after the advertisers went after him, right? And he came up with that $8 to $16 charge. Let's go into clip 10.
I have seen, they have this formally published. In fact, my organization, Foundation for Freedom Online, even published the formal disinformation primer in February 2021, 1 month after Biden took office, where in a 97-page USAID disinformation program memo, 31 times they mentioned the word advertisers as being necessary to kill the revenue to any social media site or any social media account or any independent web page that spreads misinformation. So USAID is contorting the economics of the entire news industry in order to get platforms to censor lest they go economically bankrupt. Again,
nothing is going to get in the way of their control. They want to control what you hear, see, read. Go ahead. Clip 11.
And remember, this is the major threat to Elon still to this day, but particularly these advertiser boycotts, which crushed the ability. This is why they had to turn to subscriptions and they had to make this $8 a month, $12 a month type thing because of all the ad boycotts. And again, USAID is a formal program to coordinate that in a whole of society fashion.
So again, that's one way that I've talked about it, to support tech companies if they charge $8 to $16 an hour. That's a way to support them. And I talked to Brian Kaiser about this as well, that if you want to not be worried and concerned about ad and revenue and them canceling you, you got to charge a fee if you do an app, right? So that's why he did that $18 to $16 thing for free speech. And the Mark Zuckerberg letter And in that letter, what we have here is Mark kind of regrets it now, right? Because the government will take and take and take and take, it seems like, right? Mark Zuckerberg went along with it. And what does Mike Benz say here? Probably they pushed too hard and too much, right? They just want more and more and more, right? Power wants more power, right? So they probably weren't happy with him. So Mark Zuckerberg probably, I don't know the whole story, but I'm guessing, and Mike Benz is talking, probably they just wanted more and more and more, and Mark Zuckerberg got tired of it. So he came out and went over to the Republicans for a second. Okay, let's go to clip 12.
Getting back to this Mark Zuckerberg letter, in 2019, Mark Zuckerberg was making public speeches saying that he thought censorship had gone too far on Facebook. That was 2019.
I remember.
But then he got hit with a very interesting boycott that was called #ChangeTheTerms. And it basically was economically coercing Facebook to change the terms of its terms of service, effectively to ban Trump supporters and Brexit supporters and anyone in Europe who was supporting a right-wing populist party there. And Facebook lost $60 billion in market cap in 48 hours under this boycott. And so Facebook folded like a lawn chair and gave them everything they asked for because $60 billion was enough to break Zuckerberg's back. At the same time, there's
who paid for change the terms?
Oh, that's how many hours do you have?
How about 60 seconds? Just bottom line it for us.
I mean, nominally, it was the ADL and color of change under this kind of hate speech idea, but it was joined by dozens of USAID funded, U.S. State Department funded NGOs, civil society institutions who were all creating the base of that. So nominally you had these, ADL color of change, and it's about hate speech on social media. But the buffering substructure for it were all these U.S. government intermediaries.
Okay, we've already talked about hate speech. We're opposed to it. We don't like it. Why? Who decides? Who controls it? Of course, it's another way to censor you. That's all it is. We don't believe in hate speech. We believe in free speech. Again, and what is free speech? It's from the federal government interfering in you. The First Amendment is protecting you from the federal government. Doesn't mean that a platform cannot shut you off. What it means is the federal government can't tell that platform what to censor, who to put on there, who to delete, all that stuff, which has been happening, and that's the transgression. And we don't want the federal government using your money, your taxpayer money, to finance NGOs that then do that and censor and go around you, right? Take your money to work directly against the First Amendment in the United States, that beautiful document we love, the U.S. Constitution, Dave Harrington. If you like our message, please like and subscribe. We would appreciate that.